Hello and welcome back, everyone. Flavor Friday on a Sunday. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about the Tinto talks? We haven't covered the latest Tinto talks. That is the Happy Wednesday on a Sunday instead. We will be covering that tomorrow on a Monday when we will have our Happy Wednesday. And today we are going to be covering Tinto Flavor number 11 because we saw that it was Ethiopia. We knew a few people on the channel really like Ethiopia, so we wanted to cover Ethiopia. And then, of course, we do have the Happy Thursday, which we'll be covering later today. And I know what you're thinking. What's the reason you wanted to do all of this? And where were you at Saturday's stream? And the reason is we actually wanted to say all 7 days of the week in the intro here. Tuesday. So let's get into Ethiopia's flavor from the 21st in terms of what we have going on here. So hello everyone and welcome to the Tinto Flavor, the Happy Friday. We get our Happy Friday from Pavia. Thank you, Pavia. Although I do notice he did not capitalize Happy Friday. Happy Friday is in fact a holiday, but also acceptable would have been Flavor Friday. But in which we take a look at the content of the super secret Project Caesar. Everyone's favorite, Project Caesar, Project Tizar, if you pronounce it correctly, or Kaisar. Except it's Project Teaser because they won't tell us what it is, but Tizar. Today we will be talking about the Empire of Ethiopia. Let's do that. Let's start without further ado. Bam! Some people don't know what without further ado does. We see that all the time on YouTube when they're like, without further ado, and this is, by the way, me doing ado in an irony sort of way, but they do, without further ado, here's a word from our sponsor, and then that's ado. Okay, but let's stop with the ado. No more ado. The Empire of Ethiopia is an ancient realm rich with history and traditions. Nestled in the Horn of Africa, it boasts lush highlands, plateaus, and the Great Rift Valley. Its beauty is captivated by golden sunsets on the Simeon Mountains. Ethiopia's enchanting tapestry weaves diverse ethnic groups like the Amhara, Afar, and Tigray, all of which we probably pronounced incorrectly, so apologies. United in trials, it remains resilient like the rest of the ancient baobab tree, enduring through time. I've never heard of that tree before, so at least not enduring through my memory. Inspired by ancient origins, Ethiopia cherishes legendary unions like the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. The legacy of their son Menelik, the first member, that name I recognize, the first member of the Solomon dynasty, echoes through time, connecting this land to ancient Israelites. Through the years, Ethiopia's epic tale unfolds, shaped by destiny and the unwavering spirit of its people. Triumphs and tribulations, our personal favorite, preferring, of course, triumphs to tribulations, weave a rich tapestry of the ebb and flow, of life's ebb and flow. However, this nation stands as a realm encircled by the adversaries, eagerly waiting to seize any opportunity to strike. Managing not only to survive, but to thrive will be a challenge. So we see the Ethiopian Empire, we see a nice little flag here. We do see some stats here, having a high war stat line. For those of you who don't know, one of the strongest characters, probably the strongest character in Victoria 3 is Ethiopian. That is Big Daddy himself, Tuwodros, which gives either plus 20 or plus 30 flat offense. He's the only character that has a modifier even remotely like this. It's absolutely insane, and it makes it so naval landings, for example, they just basically instantly get in because naval landing, you're always on offense, and as long as you're pushing, you're going to be very, very strong. We do see quite a strong military here as well. Please remember that any UI, 2D, and 3D art is work in progress as usual, so of course you can't judge this in terms of what is going to be delivered on release. Now we see the Ethiopian Empire kind of stretching through here. This is a little bit zoomed in, so we don't have the context of looking at the Horn of Africa, but here we see a little bit more context with the Horn of Africa here, and we see Ifat here as well, and so this is the zoomed in portion of that. Looking at the vegetation, it looks like we have is that rivers kind of growing through here and some vegetation. This will be relevant in terms of what you can do, the stacking of the vegetation, the topology, and this type of stuff. And so that is something to pay attention on looking at these maps. But I do think that we have Tinto maps. One of the Tinto maps will detail much more what resources and topography and this type of thing is in Ethiopia, but we won't take a close look at here because we're of course here for one thing, and that's flavor. and happy. The Sultanate of Ifat starts subjugated as a tributary of Ethiopia. Okay, very interesting. That is quite a bit of control over Ethiopia, but you do have, kind of the Mamluks in the north as well in terms of the context of where you are. And I don't really know who's all around in Africa, but okay, let's continue on. These are the starting works of art for Ethiopia. King Azana's stele. Is this in Axum? So this is also we've been playing a little bit of Civ 7. This is one of the wonders in Civ 7, the Great Stele for the civilization of Axum. So we do see a little bit of that, which is very strong trading civilization, some crossover, and also we do see Axum is, Axum's the name of the civilization. So it's very cool to see that kind of, if you've been following that portion of the channel. We also see Lalibella's cross, which is going to be regionally well known. Not as good as a masterpiece, but okay. St. George in Lalibela. Okay. Is this a statue? It looks like a statue, certainly. And the Kebra Nagast, which looks a little bit more like a piece of writing and is regionally well known. So 2 masterpieces. This is cool here. We have descriptions for the Great Stele, or the King Azana's stele, or stele. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Erected in the 4th century, is a monument, a stone marker from the Aksumite Empire. It reflects the kingdom of wealth and power during its peak. Azana's conversion to Christianity, also marked by inscriptions, made Axum one of the earliest Christian states in history. I believe Armenia was the first Christian state in history, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. And these are some of the advances we've decided to show this week, one per age, each kind of, or not each, but a number of countries is going to be having, unique advances, and we're seeing some here for Ethiopia. We have here available in the Age of Traditions, pop conversion speed, plus a little bit of this. We are the only nation to house the Sacred Ark of the Covenant after it was taken in secret by Menelik I with divine assistance thousands of years ago. It is hidden away from public view, lest they would attempt to steal our sacred national treasure. Replicas of the Ark are placed in every single one of our churches as a reminder that our rule is blessed by God. Here we see the Solomonid claim, which gives monthly prestige plus 0.1, which, will increase prestige, of course. I forget if it operates on an equilibrium that's the way it does in EU4 or this type of thing. Our rulers and forefathers, apologies for that mispronunciation, are descended from the monarchs of the Axum, from the bloodline of King Solomon and Queen Sheba. We have deposed the Zagwe monarchs in order to legitimize our rule and firmly establish the kingdom being restored to its rightful dynasty. And so that is cool as well. It'll be interesting to see the greater context of all the advances all together, in terms of evaluating how good the advances are or what advances strategy is going to be in this type of thing. Here we see the Prester John. It's available in the Age of Reformation, institution growth plus 20%, giving us a greater access to institutions. Europeans have been looking for the Prester John for centuries and are convinced that our ruler has to be him somehow. As we are fellow Christians, there are no reason to point that out, that they're wrong, and we are happy for them to share their ideas with us. So this will give more access to various things that you get as a result of institutions and help you to be relatively speaking more advanced, I think, by embracing the institutions faster. A true Ethiopian church we get is available in the Age of Absolutism. We won't read the let's read the description. External influences might be good for us in some respects, but can alter the nature of our beliefs. In order to maintain our identity, we must choose the existence of our own Tewahedo church, clergy, estate, satisfaction, equilibrium, plus 5%. This is going to be useful to be able to, pass more stuff that would upset them while still keeping them happy, and so this sorts of things. And we do see kind of a little bit of or quite a few things, related to church and this type of stuff. We see the conversion speed, the invocation of church here in the institution growth, and also the clergy estate satisfaction equilibrium. So definitely a little bit more faith oriented in their flavor. And then we see the origin of coffee as an advance. Very cool. Available in the age of revolutions. Tax efficiency. Shout out to caffeine and coffee output, plus 20%. And I don't know if they have throughput and output, but in Victoria 3 specifically, output modifiers are just absolutely tremendous. If coffee is an RGO, I don't think RGOs have... I'm not sure if RGOs have inputs or how that works exactly, but in Victoria 3, output modifiers are effectively multiplicative with throughput modifiers, and so that won't be a thing, perhaps. And then we have tax efficiency at plus 10%. And so, it's always nice when you can have a comparative advantage in a particular thing. And so you can lean into trying to export coffee and trying to do a lot of trade. In terms of a macro strategy, trying to gain control of the trade that goes through, I believe this is the Gulf of Aden, and up to like Sinai, this type of area, and expanding into Egypt and this type of thing, fighting the Mamluks, will be an interesting kind of way of trying to progress stuff, and to the extent that you can create maybe a little bit more of a trade/faith-oriented, civilization, that this would make sense to kind of lean into something like this. If there's coffee, if there's other means by which you could stack modifiers alongside this to help in that endeavor. Or maybe it's just kind of a little bit of extra juice. And by juice, I mean bean juice, and by bean juice, I mean coffee. It is from our lands that the coffee comes from, as it is the optimal place. While it can be cultivated in other places, ours is revered for its quality and is exported by the ton. That is a ton of weight. And if you tell me I'm wrong, you didn't get the joke. We have to make it this way to channel richness to our nation. Ethiopia also has one of these advances per age that unlocks a building and one unique one per age. It's going to be very exciting to kind of compare all of these buildings, once we have the information on them available, and try and decide which ones are better in what contexts and relativize some of these things together. A lot of spreadsheet potential here. But we see it unlocks a unique units and a unique barracks building, the Kawa units and the Kawa barracks. The Kawa, I apologize, I don't even know how you're supposed to pronounce these phonemes with these accents, serve as Ethiopia's feudal warrior class, recruited and appointed for the Emperor's army service. They represent professional soldier class, renowned for their ferocity. Here we see the Kawa units, which are going to... I wish on these we had... context for the differential between this unit and a regular infantry unit from a similar age or a similar tech group, this type of thing. That way we can contextualize it. We know that a lot of the numbers are kind of just like one or straightforward or straight across, this type of stuff. We do see that they take up a little bit of monthly manpower, and then we do see that there's weaponry and leather inputs required. The monthly manpower is 2 standard for infantry. I wonder how much deviation there is. In this case, it is 1 manpower per 100 units in terms of our strength, but we have combat power frontage. We know we've looked at some of these before where it's a lot of 1s. Strength damage taken, minus 10%. That seems good. Attrition, loss, minus 50%. And if attrition is a very significant kind of... concern, then this is going to be very useful. Having a bunch of cavalry, I imagine cavalry consume a lot more food. Food storage 0.6, food consumption 0.1, movement speed 2.5, combat speed 2, initiative 1, flanking ability 100%, and secure flanks 100%. So far, to my recollection, this looks like a lot of the other infantry units, but having one side by side would be nice for context to know and understand the differential. We see that they have bonuses in mountains and plateaus. We do know that there are plateaus specifically in Ethiopia, that this is common type of terrain, and we see terrain impact here, so maybe it's the ability to go over the terrain. I'm wondering if the ferocity comes into play here, and maybe that's the minus strength damage taken. I'm just not sure if that's on regular kind of infantry that you could compare these guys to, but we'll assume that they are operating at a premium and require weaponry and leather. Leather armor, if our knowledge of Victoria 3 in terms of the mineral resources for Ethiopia is kind of carries over, because I don't remember from the Tinto maps what Ethiopia's resources look like, you're probably going to have a little bit less iron, so having something be leather-oriented is probably a good thing. But we see the arsenal of Kawa encompasses the formidable curved sword known as the shotel, the versatile spear known as the tor, and the proficiency in ranged weaponry such as bows, javelins, loud sides known as the amma. Notably, the use of protective armor, including the renowned coat of mail, is prevalent among them, further enhancing their defensive capabilities. Oh, this says protective mail. I guess the protective mail is included in the weaponry consideration, and then that flavor makes sense with the minus strength damage taken. But let's continue taking a look at the barracks, which the barracks is, of course, going to produce monthly manpower. So one single, ones of these barracks can support up to the maintenance of 12 and a half of these. But if we have all of our manpower going towards maintenance, that's going to make it very, very difficult to replenish damaged troops. It'll be interesting to kind of figure out what the vibe is in terms of how much manpower, what ratio you want manpower relative to like a monthly. And I guess it depends on if you want to fight constant wars all the time, you probably want a lot of surplus manpower because you're going to lose a lot of troops. And if you want to fight one really big decisive war, the monthly manpower going up to something like if you want to fight a lot of wars, maybe you can have, for one Kawa barracks, you can have 5 of these units, and so you'll have 15 surplus because you'll need to be constantly replenishing. But if you're looking to fight one big war, maybe you have 10 of these Kawa units relative or proportionate to one barracks, because then you would only have 5 surplus. You won't replenish that well, but you'll have a big standing army ready to fight. We can recruit regiments here. We have inputs in terms of leather, weaponry, and this looks like some type of fabric. And we have the default building time, 365 days. We do know that terrain, topography, and vegetation affects, I think it's either build time or cost, but we also see building costs of 50 ducats or money, and then requirements for construction, including masonry and lumber. And of course we know if Victoria 3 is indicative, they're maybe not so good on the wood, I think. The resources in Ethiopia are just so bad in Victoria 3. It's a really rough place to play. But we also see that this, for example, this is, for example, the unit in the Age of Renaissance for Kawa Arbuquisters, which are going to have firearms as well. We see that this requires a lot more maintenance, but it's a similar proportion, 50 for relative to 400 combat strength. We see same combat strength, combat power, and frontage, but with four times the amount of units. That's very interesting. We see the same strength damage taken modifier here. We see the attritional losses modifier here, and we see similar combat performance and these types of modifiers down here. But this is still an infantry class, actually. Even okay, I was thinking that this would be somehow a different class, but it is infantry. My brain is like thinking infantry versus archers, and that's like actually just like not a distinction, I think, in EU4. Or just like brain is a little on Civ 7 pill in terms of unit categories. Everyone, when they have guns, are like archers. Except they're not, they're infantry. Okay, moving on. Kawa columns, and this is the one in the Age of Revolutions. So we're not seeing just one, but several different ones. Again, side by side would be nice in terms of comparing it to a different unit, but here we see much bigger maximum strength. And so as you get into the later ages, my understanding is that these it's scaled in such a way that the armies get much bigger, and so the maximum strength getting bigger definitely makes some sense. We see that the ratio here is preserved, as are the strength from damage taken. What the modifiers that I think are a little bit different are, and we see, otherwise it looks kind of standard-ish, but we see combat power makes a big jump here, right? The Arbaquisters, the columns have 3 combat power, but we see the same type of bonuses. The most modern version of the Kawa, these fighters have been recruited to the highest point in discipline and efficacy, or is that effectivity? Effectivity? Should that just be efficacy? Okay. But becoming a terror to their enemies. Now move on to the narrative content, since we have some interesting stuff for Ethiopia. We get the Wandering Count. Although the capital of Ethiopia has changed over the years due to military needs, it has never been made tradition for rulers to move the courts to different locations, being closer to where our armies are, and making a distinction between villages and cities by allowing Nagusa, Nagas, Gelbre, Meskel, Solomon, and any future rulers to select their place of governorship, as well as ensuring that each part of the country is cared for by this. We can justify this as a practice for Ethiopia. And so that is an interesting thing, a wandering court, because control seems like it'll be an important mechanic, and your control radiates out from your capital. And so if you could have a moving capital, this could allow for dynamically sort of updating which provinces are going to be the most useful, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's an interesting mechanic that perhaps allows for different gameplay patterns. If there's a certain type of resource that is really good in the early game, maybe you want your court near that resource in the early game, and then maybe in the mid game a different resource becomes more valuable, and so then you want to move your court over towards the more valuable resources to make better use economically over your increased control of an area that will radiate outward from your capital. So that is an interesting type of thing to think about, as well as all the other kind of cascading things you get from control, but the different, a more mobile type of mechanic here. But we don't see what we get as a bonus from stationary capital. So hopefully for this to be decision, to be interesting, maybe it's a little bit of a discount on moving the capital or this type of thing, or makes the penalty for moving the capital, whatever that might be, a little bit less. And then here maybe this gives us a boost to not moving the capital or something like this. But okay, this may help us, this may allow us to enact government reform, which will trigger a capital change at the start of each reign. Okay, so this will be overcoming any types of costs that there may be. And we see Wandering Court. Rather than having a stationary court, I think that this text is already in this. Or I feel like I've read that exact line of text. By abolishing the concept of stationary capital within our nation, we can easily readjust where our rulers were governed from and where the military should be rallied in case a war breaks out. Okay, so we see move capital cost is more expensive, but you get a free move per reign, something like this. The distance cost to capital minus 10%. I don't even know what that means. Is the cost scaling to move your capital scaling here with distance? May move capital with new ruler, yes. So you can't move it as cheaply if you're going to do it with a singular ruler. This is perhaps the trade-off, but every kind of new reign you get to make a kind of strategic decision on where you want to operate out from and kind of project your power from. But okay, we have the Lalibela Cross here. The Lalibela Cross, one of our nation's most cherished religious historical treasures, is a large and intricately, I can't read, sorry, apologies everyone, shout out to not being able to read, adorned a processional cross, which is housed with the Bet Medhane Alem in Lalibela. Priests often use the cross to bless or heal believers by gently rubbing it against them. Crafted by a single piece of material, it is made of bronze and gold with its center cross featuring an elongated descending arm and gracefully flared ends, and all adorned with intricate ornamentation. Distinctive characteristic of the cross is the portrayal of Adam's arms at the base, adorned during festive. We don't have access to the flavor. You'll have to wait. Okay. And here we see another one. Ooh. Also, the options are interesting. We should move our capital. We will start the pilgrimage. We can move the capital right on top of the cross, I guess. We see the Kebra Nagrast, also known as the Glory of the Kings, is a national epic from Ethiopia. It was written by Nebur Id Ishak of Axum under the supervision of the bishop Abba Georgis. This work serves as a repository of our national and religious sentiments, carrying out our immense historical and cultural significance. Again, seeing more emphasis with religious stuff in a general sense coming here from, I almost said Axum, Ethiopia. The text of the Nagast is believed to be centuries old and holds a special place within Ethiopian literature and culture, intricately weaving together history, religion, and the origins of the Solomon dynasty. Here we have a character, Abebe, the monk, also Ewostatuos. Sorry for pronunciations, of course. During the travels around our country to visit our chiefs, almost said chefs, shout out to Flavour Fridays, we have encountered a wise man teaching the common folk. He is a monk and religious leader from the north of the empire. He has a monastery and following a small number of disciples, but after some minutes of listening to his lesson, he has quickly earned the ire of our bishop. He proclaims to defend the ancient custom of Ethiopian Maya Paisitium, common folk, and to observe both Saturday and Sunday as holy days. That's like two for extra happy days. We can get behind that. We can get behind whatever makes the day happy, doubling it and giving it to the next day. Okay. Our bishop instead said that the doctrine goes against the mandate of more flavor text. We can follow the bishop's advice. We have this thing recommending there's no need for punishment. He can go somewhere else. Don't know what this means. And then he should, seems wiser than our bishop. He may get the position, and then actually we are interested in what he has to teach. So a bunch of different options which are going to have some effects. The last option unlocks a unique estate privilege. I'm kind of curious what this means with the second option, but here we get our favorite Flavor Ethiopia.200.d. You can take that D to the bank because we will be losing prestige and gaining 2.5 stability. We will lose estate satisfaction. So again, anything that's giving you positive estate satisfaction, you can look at that as a resource that allows you to get other things in exchange for that. And here we see a trade between the Hanat and the Gebar in terms of estate satisfaction. So if you want to put in a bunch of estate privileges that maybe give negatives to the Gebar, this will allow you to slot more of those in while still maintaining high satisfaction or something like this. We will grant both days Sabbath to the Gebar, and then we see both days Sabbath giving, what is this, plus 33%. I forget what the lightning bolt means power, I think. And then plus 5% happiness, and raw materials output minus 5%. That modifier is scary. It's going to depend how modifiers stack, and if you can get a lot of modifiers. If you can get a lot of modifiers, right, minus 5.5% won't be that bad. If you can't, that's actually pretty substantive. But maybe you still want to give people a break on Saturday. Contrary to the mainstream doctrine, the ancient tradition of our people has been observing both the seventh-day Sabbath on Saturdays and the Lord's Day on Sundays. That this privilege codifies these customs into law and protects the peasantry from persecution. Do we really want to do that now, though? Probably not. Justice of the Kings. The Fetha Negest, and also known as Justice of the Kings, is a theocratic legal code compiled around 1240 in Arabic by Abu Fadah ibn al-Asal, an Egyptian Christian writer. He drew the laws from the apostolic writings and previous law codes of Byzantine rulers. The textual history of the Fetha Negest reveals its two distinct parts. The first part is primarily focuses on an ecclesiastical matters, detailing the structure of the church hierarchy and its sacraments. It incorporates elements from the Bible, and then the other part will refer to something else. Here, our option, we should adapt to it. We will enact the policy in our legal code, and then this will give plus satisfaction. And that seems pretty good, just in a general sense. But let's see kind of the second part here. We get monthly progress towards, with the Fetha Negest policy. Sorry, excuse me. That is being enacted. A monthly progress towards centralization, which is a cultural value. I'm thinking that's probably going to give positive modifiers that we are a fan of. Clergy estate satisfaction equilibrium plus 20%. We're a fan of that. Clergy power plus 10%. Monthly control, which is, of course, one of the things that radiates out of our capital that we can move, plus 0.5%. This looks actually very strong. This looks quite strong indeed, because I think the negative trade-off of plus clergy power is really not that bad. That seems like quite a bit of happiness equilibrium. And then we have the monthly control down here. And so that will allow us to make better use of the areas around our capital as we move them, and maybe this allows you to be really dynamic. But we see the Justice of the Kings, the theocratic legal code compiled by this guy, is a significant work of justice, and we've already read this, so we will not continue reading it again. We see, or rather hear, the loud or somewhat quiet now motorcycle outside, which heralds the coming of Dabiri Meshwayi. Hopefully I pronounced that somewhat close. Due to the successful reign of Negusa, Nagst, Bahar, Segad, Solomon, that's 5 names in a row that I almost certainly mispronounced each of. He has been inspired to create Debre Mashawei, a church greater than the rest. It may be costly to do so, but trying to contain him on this project may result in someone turning against us. So is this a... Okay, I was going to say, is this a unique building? Are there unique buildings? Or is this just a building that is locked behind our culture, or this type of thing? Okay, but we see it is going to have some employees. Shout out to the church employees. If in the capital, the country benefits by... so this will be interesting. This will disincentivize you from moving around your capital if you have to invest in multiple of these. But we get monthly right power plus 0.1, gives the following benefits to its location. And I think this is still, if in the capital of the country benefits this. Max literacy for clergy, plus 10%, and clergy power, plus 10%. And so if you're... I have to imagine if you're giving the church a bunch of power, this makes max literacy for clergy specifically better as they generate more and more power. And we see a bunch of... Is this a bunch of different production methods here? Well, we see the stained glass windows in each of these kind of here, so I have to assume that we could use any one of these 5 options for constructing the building, which is nice to have some flexibility here. And then the building costs also includes 20 religious influence, and requirements for construction are ongoing requirements. Oh no, wait, this is production methods. Requirements for construction is just masonry 20.25. and we just need to pay that 0.25 for as long as the building is being built, right? So then is cost always correlated with the number of days? If it just always requires 0.25, right, then the days, if you make something get constructed faster, it will also cost you less. But being a major monastery, the Meshawai has been given to the Kahanat of the lands more control, but also better living conditions. And much more. Or sorry, much more. Not much more. Just much more. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week... Wait, what's this? Next week we will have to skip Tinto Flavour. Unfortunately, since we are on international event, an internal event, that's the opposite of international, event scheduled on Friday, and no one will be available, we will have to compensate with a double. They're taking the flavor and shipping it to the next week, with a double intense schedule for the following week. On Monday the 31st, we will have Tinto Maps review Persia and the Caucasus, while on Friday the 4th, we will also take a look at the content for Persia and the Timurids, which starts with including international, which includes a starting international organization, the Khanate and a situation, the rise of Timur. Lots of exciting content for coming here. I wonder what they did on Friday. But this has been our Flavor Friday on a Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed. It is definitely interesting to read through these, and the context of kind of comparing these things. We do see that in Ethiopia we're going to have a religious-oriented run, almost certainly kind of located down here in the Horn of Africa. It's probably going to be worth going over some of these maps again and look at these resources and try and also figure out what resources are going to be useful for the Ethiopian Empire and they will want to lean into. They will perhaps have a challenge of not having very much access to the coast at the start. But this is one that, they can quickly acquire it either by going after their subject or by conquering some of these lands. So there's definitely some availability there. The Mamluks will be in the north, and so this will probably be a rather fun place to play. But if not a fun place, certainly a flavorful one. Not Happy Friday. Everyone knows you can, of course, substitute Happy Friday for Flavor Friday on, of course, a Sunday.